everyone, it's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland reviewer, and welcome to the Wasteland Watchlist here on the SPN Crew Podcasting Network. And this is my weekly show where my guests and I play a little bit of movie roulette and pick a random film from my enormous, obnoxious movie watch list of over 8,000 films, and they can basically be anything. And somehow we found a very commercially big movie from the 90s that I just happen to never have seen. But joining me for this episode is my buddy Luke. Luke, thank you so much for coming on.
Hey, enormous and obnoxious. That's how some people call me. Hey, that's me.
Zing. There you go. Luke knows how to play this podcast game.
Yes.
We're going to be talking about 1998's Enemy of the State, which, yes, this is actually a pretty big movie that I just had never gotten around to seeing. I've heard of it. I might have seen parts of it, but here we are. This film released one day after my 7th birthday, November 20th, 1998. This is an 132-minute film directed by Tony Scott, who...
If you couldn't tell, by looking at the movie.
Yes, who really had a very distinct look. And I'm going to just casually read off the cast here. We got Will Smith, Gene Hackman, Jon Voight, Tom Sizemore, Jason Robards, Regina King, Gabriel Byrne, Barry Pepper, Jake Busey, Jack Black, Seth Green, Jamie Kennedy, Jason Lee, Lisa Bonet. What? I remember watching the credits at the beginning. I'm like, who's in this movie?
Yep.
There's so many people in this movie. This was budgeted around $90 million and made $250 million at the worldwide box office. The screenwriter worked on the script for 2 years under the guidance of Jerry Bruckheimer, because damn does this feel like a Jerry Bruckheimer movie.
100%.
I saw the Bruckheimer production, I'm like, yes. I'm like, to the 90s. Back to the 90s we go. Oliver Stone showed interest in the project. And there's uncredited rewrites on the film by Aaron Sorkin, Henry Bean, and Tony Gilroy. So, and 3 people considered for the lead of this film were Mel Gibson, Tom Cruise, and George Clooney.
Interesting.
Yep. Tell me this was the 90s.
I cannot imagine Tom Cruise in this role. He's obviously a bona fide action star, but I don't think he would be a right fit for this specific role.
I think things would have been slightly more unhinged if they had a Mel Gibson in this.
I can kind of imagine, because he did Payback in 97.
Yeah.
So
this was that era of him doing thrillers like this. And they approached Sean Connery first to play which I'm like, damn, now I want to see the Sean Connery version of this movie.
Yeah.
But Gene Hackman was incredible. And a bunch of the minor actors in this film that are recognizable names actually signed on because they were excited with the fact that they could work with Gene Hackman.
I don't blame them.
That was a big selling point. And the photo in the NSA profile of Gene Hackman was just a shot of him from The Conversation.
It's a Conversation sequel confirmed.
Yep, which that is one of the headcanons of this movie, is many people feel like this is a sequel to The Conversation, and it really, really feels like it probably could be.
Honestly, it feels like Tony Scott decided, hey, what if Conversation happened in the 90s? How would it look like? Oh yeah, it would look like this. And, just to make it extra clear, we cast Gene Hackman in the same fucking role.
Yeah, there you go. I also thought this was interesting. This was nominated for 3 different awards at the NAACP Awards, the MTV Awards, and the Teen Choice Awards.
All the classics, all the big ones.
All the big ones. If you got nominated for an MTV or Teen Choice Award in the 90s, that was legit. The 90s. But Luke, what were your general thoughts on Enemy of the State?
I like it. This is the second time I've seen it, because when he said, "Oh, I've never seen this," at first I was shocked, because obviously I'm always shocked when you tell me, "Oh, I haven't seen this movie," because to me he's seen every movie twice. But then I remembered, I've only seen it myself for the first time, like also about 2 years ago. So I'm like, kind of makes sense. But yeah, on a rewatch, I still like it. Like it's look, is it the best action movie of the 90s? Probably not. But it's very entertaining. I think Will Smith, this is just before he blew up, or just about around the same time as he properly went from Will Smith, the actor, and Fresh Prince to Will Smith, the megastar. We got to know him, right? Because like
Well,
Men
because
in Black, really.
we had Independence Day, Men
Mm-hmm.
in Black, and
Mm-hmm.
then this.
Yes. So I
So
think that
like
kind of like basically cemented him. Oh, he cannot. He doesn't have to do just like blockbusters, or he doesn't have to do just quote unquote comedies like in Men in Black. Even though Men in Black is more than just a comedy. He can actually be a leading man, and he is. And like the charisma of young Will Smith is unequaled. Like it's like that dude. Even to this day, I'm not as sour on him as many after the Oscar slap. But I know people who have soured on Will. I'm not. I wish he would have not done it. But that's a different discussion. Anyway, this movie, pretty good. Pretty good. And yeah, the joke, joking aside, is this the most Tony Scott movie Tony Scott has ever Tony Scott?
Tony Scott.
Or or is it
In my
maybe Man
case,
on Wire or Man on Fire?
I feel like this and Man on Fire, like this is Tony Scott doing Tony Scott things. Um, Having a meta comment here, real quick, to the greater Wasteland verse here on the SPM
Hmm.
crew. What relationships more toxic? Toxic, Turkish Delight or the Smiths?
You mean in real life? Oh yeah, that's a good question. In
Yeah,
a real
I
life,
do.
I know more about that relationship than I ever signed up for, and the more I know about it, the more like, Will, dude, you okay? You okay there, buddy? Eh.
He's not. But he is extremely charismatic in this film, and I
Mhm.
think his charisma and star power keeps us grounded a bit because, like, is he the best dude in this movie? And it's just like there's a lot of questionable things that he's involved in this
Mhm.
movie, and I feel like who you cast really makes this work or not. And I think Will Smith was a smart choice because, like, he's
Yeah.
funny, we like him,
Mhm.
so like we could get past the fact that like the mob, um, like the Lisa Bonet of it all in
Yep.
this situation, and like there's just some shady things about a protagonist, and that can work in a
Mhm.
film. There's no rule that says that you can't have a shady protagonist, but when you cast Will Smith, it just makes them more likable, I guess. So
Mhm.
I think that was a good bit of casting, and Gene Hackman turned out to be an amazing piece of casting here, and he doesn't even show up. I checked it. It was like a good hour into
Yes.
this film, and he is grumpy. He is hurt, and he just has a presence to him. And like, I would not mess with this man.
Nope.
And I believe 100% that this is some kind of surveillance genius. And because you need some believability for like a crazy savant character like this that's just
Mhm.
like always watching. And he just seems like the kind of guy that would be like, I'm off the grid. And he just brings a presence to this film. And this cast is ridiculous. John Voight does a really great job. And John Voight has kind of turned into I just pop up in random Republic Pictures VOD movies at
Yep.
this point. But like he's a really talented actor and can like here really brings in a significant performance because like he's our antagonist. He's the one pulling the strings. You have like Jason Robards wasn't even credited in the movie,
Mhm.
which was interesting, and he was such a great actor. Tom Sizemore, um, playing an Italian mobster. Um, was Tom Sizemore Italian? I don't know, but was he believable? He definitely like he felt like he would have fit right in on The Sopranos, to be
Oh yeah.
perfectly frank.
Yep.
And he just brought like a level up here. And is this movie really a '90s thriller if it didn't have Tom Sizemore in it?
Nope.
Like Heat. Saving Private Ryan. No,
Yep,
that's why you need Tom Sizemore in it.
correct.
One very specific bit of casting, I was so confused. I'm like, how does Jason Lee fit into this movie? Because like at this point, because like actually there's a few of them, but we'll get to that. So
Mhm.
first off, Jason Lee, Clerks, Chasing Amy, like this is like he's in View Askew stuff. And then the second he shows up on screen and it's like F a duck and in like that Jason Lee kind of way, and I'm just like,
Yeah.
oh, I see recently got cast because he is playing that character perfectly. And I'm like, I was half expecting this to be like this small, like serious role of his. No, they just let him Jason Lee
And
for
the
the
way
brief
the
time.
character goes, like, meets his end, it's
Yeah,
brutal. That's like that chase
brutal.
sequence, and like it's so fucking well shot. And then the least when he least expected, and it's like, oh damn, he did.
Oh damn. And you have like the likes of like Jack Black
Hmm.
and Jamie Kennedy as
Evil
like
Jack
these
Black,
these
evil.
surveillance well, let's do a little bit of Jack Black history. Do you know what Jack Black's like big screen debut was?
Wait, I think I know, but remind me. I don't remember now.
He was the leader of the Nasties in Neverending Story 3
Oh,
Escape from Fantasia.
genuinely one of the worst movies I've ever seen. Yeah, I remember. I didn't remember it was his feature debut, but I remember him being there, like a very young Jack
And
Black.
his unibrow
I
was
fucking hate that movie. Like I don't have visceral reaction to many movies, but that is one I genuinely despise. I'll
I
say that,
did
like,
I had that on VHS
far
along with all three Neverending
even as a
Stories.
teenager, even as a small like a smaller human, I had a reaction like, what the fuck did they do with Never Ending Story? What is this? Anyway,
But
we're not talking about this.
yeah, but Evil Jack Black, Jamie
Hmm.
Kennedy, like, and you just have like Barry Pepper pops up, and Scott Kahn and Jake Busey. It's just really interesting seeing all these faces and like Lisa Bonet and Regina
Hmm.
King. The cast is stacked. There's no denying that for sure.
Oh, 100%. I think what separates this movie from the rest of the pack in a horrible way is we now know, because of somebody like, Snowden, how accurate this movie is. And if you
Well,
think about what you're saying in 1998, what the techno and how far the technology has progressed in just the last, decade, imagine what kind of shit they are tracking now.
hey Luke,
Hmm.
let's say hi to the
Yeah.
NSA as they're
Hello,
listening to
hello,
our recording.
agents.
Um, but like just while we are watching, it was just like the Patriot Act, and I'm like,
Yep.
this was an insanely timely film, and
Hmm.
like
And we didn't even
this
know. We didn't
no
even know.
like and you think of thrillers from the 90s, you have like Con Air and
Hmm.
stuff like
Hmm.
that, but like this is a really relevant and uncomfortable film about surveillance and the government, and like how far the government can go and people in the government killing senate like congressmen and stuff like that, and just like this is wild. And I'm like, Tony Scott had something on his hands here that I don't know if they fully comprehended just how relevant this film was going to be for the next
Or
27 years.
or did he know, and that's why he got killed, like the later, oh,
You
suicide. No,
heard it
he
here
got he got
first,
he got
here
off by the
on
government.
Welcome
Put
to
your
the Wasteland Conspiracies.
conspiracies. Put your tin foil's head on, please.
Yep. We need the tinfoil hats to save us from the government and the
Yes.
aliens. Because
Yes.
let's remember, Signs came out just 4 years after this. We need that tinfoil hat. Um,
They were trying to tell us all along. Okay, Shane, the Hollywood is trying to tell us. No.
but no,
But
like, but yes,
yes.
continue.
I was gonna say, on a more serious note, it was fascinating to hear the same arguments that we are using to this day. Oh, we need to monitor everybody because bad people. But like who and Regina King, addressing what is gonna be her future. Who's watching The Watchmen? And I'm like, yes, Regina King, yes. You mentioned that that TV show you're gonna be in 20 years. Good for you, Regina King. Like you know
Crap.
yeah,
I didn't think about that, but yeah. Well, that's the thing. It's like, so you're watching bad people, but what about the bad people
yeah.
watching people?
Who's watching The Watchmen? Like she even says it. I'm like, yes, Regina King. You knew even back then, in 21 years time or whatever, you're gonna be in that TV show, and you're gonna be so fucking good.
Which, like, this is a visceral film. Like,
Hmm.
Tony Scott really understood how to make a visceral thriller, and he was probably the king of making 90s and aughts thrillers. And because,
Yes,
like, he did Unstoppable, right? That train movie.
yes.
So,
That's
like, I
awesome.
feel like up until that, like, he was still making really visceral, impactful thrillers. And, like, not every filmmaker needs to have like a wide palette of what
Hmm.
they can do. Not everybody's a Spielberg that could do basically any type of film. Tony Scott was a great filmmaker for doing exactly what he really knew how to do. It's like I would be sad if we were in a world that didn't have True Romance and this and Man on Fire and all of these thrillers that like
Hmm.
and like I'm not the hugest fan of the original Top Gun, but like I could appreciate like that was a visceral, intense, like
Yep.
the like plane sequences and stuff like that. But like he really made some fantastic thrillers, and this
Hmm.
is like the peak of his like technical prowess, and you can
Hmm.
see that on screen for sure. That when they blow up the surveillance
Yeah.
hub that Brill has, and then they're like on the run from them. Like that was an intense chase. And what you brought up when Jason Lee came to his horrible ends, like
Hmm.
that was a intense chase sequence. And this is a really well staged action thriller for sure.
No, and that was my next point. Like, Tony, we need to appreciate and acknowledge Tony Scott because, like, genuinely, when he was firing on all cylinders, there was almost next to none. And I'm gonna make a wild comparison, but stick with me. I think Tony Scott is for action genre the same thing as David Lynch was for David Lynch genre, because here's the thing. How many movies since in like 90s we've seen try to emulate this quick edits, quick action, do 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 do, and
And it
how many of
sucks.
them fail? Yeah, exactly. How many of them fail? But this one, Man on Fire, Unstoppable, those movies are all quick. They are, especially this one. There are quick cuts all over the place, but you're never like, it never feels like, oh, we're masking bad stunts. No, no, no. He's got the cuts because that's what he wants that movie to look like, and you're never confused where we are. You're never confused about like like the where we are like in a scene, what's happening, because he had a knack to how to make those scenes his way. And I think many action directors, even today, still trying to emulate that. I think the only person who succeeded, possibly, and even maybe improved upon it, off the top of my head, Paul Greengrass with Bourne
Yep.
trilogy. Or
I was thinking,
Bourne duology, he only directed the second and third.
yeah.
He didn't direct the first one, yes.
Or like Doug Lyman.
Yes,
I
yeah, Doug
think
Lineman.
like Doug Lyman, I think took a little bit of a
Hmm.
well,
No, Doug Lineman is different. Like I think Paul
yeah,
Greengrass is definitely one of those like, oh, quick cut, edit, 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 edit. But also, again, it works. Those
yeah.
two, I can only genuinely think are the only example. Tony Scott and Paul Greengrass are masters of this specific niche craft that should be fucking niche. But unfortunately, in modern day Hollywood, this is like, hey,
It
we
turned
don't
into
know how
everything.
to, yeah, how to mask this, like, this stunt guy that, that we need to have instead of this A-lister who cannot be injured. So let's cut around it and let's make it confusing so you cannot at least tell this is a stunt person. And
You
I'm
mean
like,
Liam Neeson hopping a fence in 14 edits?
oh yeah, that always cracks me up.
So, real quick, I'm going to keep this diversion quick. To your point,
Hmm.
just watch the new documentary Wick is Pain,
Hmm.
and it's all about the making of the John Wick franchise.
Hmm.
It took Christopher McQuarrie and Tad Stahelski and honestly George Miller
Hmm.
to take action movies back from this style that was ruining action movies because people couldn't do what Tony Scott did and
Yes.
Paul Greengrass did. And it's just like, thank God for them that we
Hmm.
could finally have some like inventive, intense, and engrossing and in camera action movies again. But just leave Tony Scott's style to Tony Scott because Tony Scott knew what he was doing.
And yeah, and to that point, since we're still talking about him, I genuinely like I made a joke about it earlier, but I genuinely was shocked and saddened when I heard that he passed away in 2013, I believe. And I wish he would still be around because genuinely he was one of those directors I would be interested in what kind of not just action movie, but what kind of movies he would be producing and making today. Because like again, not all of his movies are bombs or like not bombs but like great movies, but at least there's still something that he was gonna do that nobody other knew how to do or nobody knew how to do as well as him. So all his movies at least give you some sort of ride. Like some movies talk to your soul and some movies are, hey, let's go on this ride and you're gonna be entertained. And I think this movie is that. It's not perfect, but hey, let's go on this ride and you'll be entertained by Will Smith's charisma, Regina King's awesomeness, like Tony Scott's direction, Gene Hackman's like, hey, we don't trust the government because government spies on us too much, which he was absolutely right. Yeah. One of the
Well,
this is like peak 90. I like it like this might be one of the peak 90s movies ever.
and because like he did Crimson Tide 3 years before
That's
this incredible film.
yes,
That like that might be the closest film of his to me that's like a true like
great. Like yeah,
great
yeah, like
movie.
yeah.
Because looking at a lot of his films, like I wouldn't say his films are great.
Yes.
Like they're not great movies, but they're really, really good movies. And like he
Entertaining.
went up like Unstoppable was his last movie. And that was such a great way to if you're gonna go out, that was a really good movie. And I guess what I'll say briefly is what kept this from being great for me.
Hmm.
I feel like it's a little over convoluted. Like they could have leaned some stuff out of this. And I feel like this was such a 90s thing. It's like the sweet spot to sell 90s thrillers and action movies was it had to be between 2 hours and 10 minutes and 2 hours and 20 minutes when
Hmm.
most of them probably should have been like an hour and 45 to an hour and
Yeah,
50
yeah,
minutes.
yeah.
And I feel like this film would have benefited from not being over 2 hours. Um, shaving some of the stuff off some places, but in general, I still really liked it.
I wholeheartedly agree with you, Shane. Like that's the only thing that's also stopping me from saying this is a great movie. Like or like proper like loved it. Like yeah, there's like when the highs are high, you're great. But then like it stops for like some exposition and this and this and this, and you're like, eh. It kind of like it kind of like dampens the mood a bit. So yeah, it definitely like did it have to be or did it justify its length of 2 hours 12 minutes? I think
Yeah,
no.
no,
But if
it did not.
you could shave like about 20 minutes and it would probably be perfect movie. And Crimson Tide, by the way, another Gene Hackman. And
Yeah,
Denzel going up
Denzel.
against oh,
Well,
that's
it's
a
interesting
fucking movie.
because Denzel and Spike Lee are known for their collaborations, but
Yep.
Denzel and Tony Scott
Oh yeah,
between
Unstoppable. Yep.
Unstoppable, Crimson
Man on
Tide,
Fire.
Man on Fire, Deja. Well, I I feel like there's some of his movies like did I see that? Like don't remember like much detail about them. And honestly, Enemy of the State could have been a film that I might have watched when I was a kid and
Hmm.
just didn't remember. I was watching it with some familiarity, like kind of know some of this movie. And
Hmm.
I don't know if it's because maybe I've seen parts of it. because that's the thing. When you're growing up and you're a kid and you're just watching things on TV, you've
Yeah.
probably seen parts of movies so many times. And FX for sure. I've seen so many parts of movies
Hmm.
um growing up because I watch a lot of FX when I was younger. Which is funny because I watch a lot of FX TV shows now.
Nice.
But no, Enemy of the State, it's a good movie.
Yes.
But
Rest in
those are
peace,
our
Tony Scott.
thoughts. Yes. Thank you, Tony Scott. But Luke, thank you so much as always for coming on and talking movies with me.
Always a blast, Shane. Thank you so much for having me.
And thank all of you for listening. Make sure to like, comment, and share on this episode. What's your favorite Tony Scott film? What are some of your favorite, like that 90s Jerry Bruckheimer like era of movies? Because it
Mm.
was a thing. It
Yep.
really was a thing for
Yep.
sure. And make sure to follow or subscribe wherever you listen to your podcast. The SPM Crew Podcasting Network is ever expanding. Luke has a really great show with Flicks and Chill, and I have like 5 shows on here. And Luke's my co-host on another show with the Cinematic Wasteland co-host. And there's so many other things, whether it's about TV or sports or music or trivia or Tolkien on tap. Get drunk and talk about Middle Earth. But if you're interested in joining the crew, make sure to reach out to us on our website if you have an idea for a podcast or you want to join one of ours as a guest. And if you like our logo, check out High Flyer Creative for all your digital marketing needs. But most importantly, thank you as always for supporting the Wasteland Watchlist here on the SPDM Crew Podcasting Network.